Welcome to The Critique. Today we're looking at daily nutrition tips every older adult needs, a piece that delivers health advice through a sitcom-style dialogue with characters like Mr. America and Grandpa New Zealand.
Right. An interesting concept.
Let's jump right in. Okay, so the first thing that really stands out is this question of audience alignment. I think the choice to portray the target reader, an older adult, through Grandpa New Zealand as a sort of rebellious child, it creates a tonal disconnect that could really alienate people.
It really could. And it's not just a one-off joke, is it? It's the entire structure.
It is.
You have the quote-unquote younger nations, Mr. America and Miss England, giving an order, and then Grandpa New Zealand just pouts or complains, like a toddler.
Exactly. The whole intent seems to be humor, that kind of sitcom, oh, grandpa vibe. But the actual impact feels a bit, well, patronizing.
I mean, let's look at the text. Tip 1, about milk. Grandpa asks, "What if my bones want too?" It's written like a kid trying to get another piece of candy.
And then there's the part about singing at the table.
Yes. And the immediate response is just a flat no singing.
It's like tired parents telling a 5-year-old to quiet down.
It is. And, some of the lines are genuinely funny on their own, like the one where Mr. America says Grandpa's stomach is not a nightclub anymore.
Sure, that's got some zing to it. It's a good line.
But when you string 11 of these moments together, you have to ask, does it respect the reader? The reader's the older adult, so they're seeing themselves as someone who's constantly being mocked and managed, not as a person with any real agency.
Yeah, I get what the author was trying to do. They're trying to lighten the mood around these really strict dietary rules. But you're right, it frames the senior as just a passive recipient of rules, not an agent in their own health. So let's think about how to strengthen this. The big suggestion here is reframing the protagonist's arc from rebellious child to something more like experienced elder adapting for longevity.
That's a huge shift, a crucial one. The humor then comes from, shared experience or wit, not from incompetence.
Exactly. So let's take that milk section. Right now, Grandpa's the punchline. What if we rewrote it so that instead of whining, he makes a witty comment? Something like, well, the engine needs high-octane fuel these days.
I love that. It shows he gets it. He understands why he needs the calcium. He can still be a little grumpy about it. Nobody likes changing their habits. But he's in control. He's making a choice, not being force-fed.
And what about the fried chicken bit in tip 6? He clutches his heart like it's a melodrama.
Yeah, that's a total caricature. What if, building on that idea of agency, he turns it into a challenge? Instead of just whining, he could say to Miss England, "All right, I'll try it, but you have to make a steamed dish that tastes better than this fried chicken."
Oh, that's great. That completely changes the dynamic. It goes from, you can't have this, to active collaboration. It makes him a real participant in this masterclass, not just the bad kid in the corner.
And it acknowledges that, giving up fried chicken is hard. It treats the problem with the spirit of adaptation, not just submission.
Okay, moving to the second big area. The use of the national names, Mr. America, Miss England, Grandpa New Zealand, it feels like an arbitrary label. It doesn't really serve a thematic purpose.
I stumbled on this one too. I kept asking myself, why these countries? There's just no connection between the advice they give and, the real culinary culture of those nations.
It sets up this United Nations metaphor that never really pays off.
Not at all. Take tip 10. That's the one about foods for specific health conditions. Ms. England is delivering the advice, and she lists winter melon, red water spinach, and bitter melon.
Which I think it's safe to say are not exactly staples of a traditional English diet.
Not even close. So that disconnect, it just pulls the reader out of the story. It creates this cognitive dissonance. Instead of thinking about the benefits of bitter melon, you're wondering why a character named Miss England is talking about it.
It feels like the names were just picked to have characters without thinking through the logic.
I think that's exactly it. The focus was on the sitcom frame, but the internal logic of the characters got lost.
So the suggestion here is to earn the metaphor. If the characters are going to represent countries, then the advice needs to be filtered through that cultural lens.
That makes sense. Or you could even change the characters entirely to fit the advice, right?
That's a fantastic option. For example, what if you use the blue zones concept? Instead of Mr. America, You have Grandpa Okinawa or Miss Sardinia.
Oh, now that's interesting, because then when they talk about small, frequent meals or esteemed foods, the advice feels rooted in real, established cultural wisdom. It has instant authority.
Exactly. You immediately trust Miss Sardinia when she talks about olive oil. But, okay, let's say the author wants to stick with the current names. They can still make it work if they lean into the identities.
And to your point, if you keep Miss England, have her talk about making a traditional English roast healthier. Steam the veg, use leaner cuts of meat, something that actually sounds like it's coming from England.
And Grandpa New Zealand?
Well, New Zealand is famous for its outdoor lifestyle. So for tip 11, move gently after eating, instead of him saying he'll just walk to the sofa, have him joke about, I don't know, needing to go herd some sheep or go for a hike. It just grounds the character in his identity.
It makes the whole piece feel more cohesive. You can't just introduce a character named Miss England and have her recommend Malabar spinach without explaining why.
It's about reducing the reader's cognitive load so they can actually focus on the health advice.
Which brings us perfectly to our third point. The piece does a good job of saying what to do, but it often forgets to explain why. So we're talking about depth of information versus just rote memorization.
I really felt this in the more medical sections. It gives you a list of actions, but with no explanation of the mechanism.
Let's go back to 10 again.
Right. It just lists vegetables. Celery, cucumber for hypertension. Bitter melon for diabetes. And Grandpa's only reaction is to complain that his stomach is crying.
It's such a missed opportunity. A skeptical reader needs to know why celery helps with blood pressure to be convinced to eat more of it. Just saying eat this feels like a command, not education.
Exactly. It's almost like magical thinking. Eat this vegetable, fix this condition. But the audience is smart. They aren't just going to take Miss England's word for it without some kind of reasoning.
Right. So the goal is to bridge that gap between the food and the benefit, but without turning it into a science textbook. We need to trust the reader to understand a little bit of basic biology.
So what does that actually look like in the dialogue? How do you add the science without losing the conversational tone?
It could be as simple as one extra line. For the hypertension part, Ms. England could say something like, celery contains phytochemicals that help relax the artery walls, Grandpa. That's why it's good for your blood pressure.
See, that's so much more powerful. One sentence. But it turns a command into a strategy. It treats the reader like a peer.
And for the diabetes list?
Same idea. Don't just list red water spinach. Explain that fiber-rich vegetables slow down how quickly your body absorbs sugar. It turns a simple shopping list into a logical plan.
And then Grandpa's reaction can change too. Instead of whining, he could have a moment of understanding like, oh, so it stops the sugar from spiking? He models comprehension for the reader.
It makes the masterclass actually feel like a class. It answers the so what question.
Exactly. It gives the reader the why. And that's the key to motivating any real change. Okay, so for our last point, let's talk about the overall structure and pacing. The piece falls into a very repetitive formula that I think starts to hinder engagement over time.
You can feel the rhythm of it, can't you? It's a strict tip, then a joke, then a scolding.
Over and over, 11 times.
It is tip 1, milk joke. Tip 2, nightclub joke. Tip 6, heartbreak joke. By the time you get to tip 11, with the whole I'll walk to the sofa line, the reader is way ahead of you. The punchline is completely telegraphed.
So the masterclass frame promises something dynamic, but it really just functions as a repetitive skit. All the surprise is gone by the end.
And I wonder if that repetition starts to diminish the impact of the later tips. The reader just starts skimming because they know the pattern. They know Grandpa will say something silly and then get corrected.
So the suggestion here is to vary the structural beats. What if you grouped related tips together to create little modules of conversation instead of just a numbered list?
That's a great idea. Like tip 3 is small frequent meals, and tip 9 is don't eat too much at night. Those are basically two sides of the same coin.
They are. They're both about metabolic timing. So cluster them. Have one deeper conversation about when to eat instead of two separate 30-second gags. It breaks up that listicle format.
And it frees up space for the more meaningful dialogue we were just talking about, like adding the why. You gain substance by cutting the repetitive setups.
And another way to break the pattern would be to just change the winner of the scene sometimes.
I love that. Why does Grandpa always have to be the one who's wrong?
Exactly. Look at tip 5, eat slowly. The text has Mr. America scolding him for eating too fast.
Which is that same scolding dynamic all over again.
But what if Grandpa was the one who actually knew the answer here? What if he explained that he savors his food to enjoy the memory of the flavor? He could be the one to teach the younger nations a lesson about mindfulness.
That completely subverts the pattern. It shows that the senior character has wisdom to offer the, frantic younger generation. You all rush, but I take my time.
It balances the power dynamic. It makes him a three-dimensional character, not just a punching bag. And it breaks that rhythm of Grandpa's wrong, everyone else is right.
It would make the piece feel more like a genuine, respectful conversation and less like a lecture. It keeps the reader engaged because they don't know who's going to provide the insight in the next section.
Right. It turns it from a predictable march into an actual narrative.
I really think if the author makes these kinds of changes, adjusting the tone, earning the character names, adding the science, and breaking the structure, this piece could be exceptional.
I agree. The core information is solid. The tips themselves are good. It's just the delivery system that needs a bit of a tune-up.
The bones of it are good, so to speak.
Indeed. So just to recap the main opportunities we've talked about today. First, elevate the protagonist. Change Grandpa New Zealand from a petulant caricature to an empowered senior. This will show respect for your audience and make the humor land better. Second, align those character identities. Either switch to something like the Blue Zones to give the advice more authority, or really lean into the cultural specifics of America and England to make the metaphor work.
Right, no more Miss England recommending bitter melon out of nowhere.
Exactly. Make the metaphor do some heavy lifting for you. Third, add the mechanism of action. Don't just say what to eat, explain why it works in a simple biological way. Treat your reader like an intelligent partner. And finally, break that repetitive structure. Move away from the tip, joke, scold loop. Group related ideas together and, every once in a while, let the senior character be the wisest one in the room.
It's all about making the form of the piece match its function. If the function is to empower seniors, the form has to empowering too.
So we invite the listener to try reworking a piece of this dialogue. Specifically, take a shot at 10, the list of vegetables, weave in the why, and give Grandpa a reaction that shows he understands rather than just complains. Send that revision in, and we'd be happy to look at it in a future critique.
I would love to see what people come up with. There's a lot of potential here.
There certainly is. Thank you for listening to The Critique. Keep writing and keep improving.
See you next time.